Well, we are glad to welcome to the show today the new Notre Dame baseball coach, Shawn Stiffler. Coach, thanks for taking some time. I imagine your days are pretty busy right now, huh?
Yeah, no question. Just trying to get ourselves organized and get to work on, um, getting back on campus. That's the big thing. I want to get boots on the ground, but trying to assemble staff, trying to speak to all the current members of the roster, the incoming players, the 23s and 24 recruits. And then you had the Major League Draft going on right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Several guys are involved in that, and just trying to get a feel for how I can support that. I know I'm kind of late to the party on some of this stuff, but want to be support for those guys as well. So it's all good things, but certainly I wish there was a few more hours in the day.
Well, I would imagine that just this last week, you're back in Virginia right now, trying to take care of some things there, but I would imagine it's been quite a bit of a whirlwind for you, hasn't it? Just kind of here and there and everywhere, and just kind of what you touched on right there, all the phone calls you've got to make and everything else.
Absolutely. Just from, really when Jody Sadler and I first had to talk about the opportunity at Notre Dame, things have moved so quickly since then, and within a week and a half to 2 weeks, you're at a press conference, with your family, and you're trying to find a new place to live and trying to learn a whole new roster and trying to make new relationships. And so it's been really rewarding. Everyone has been as wonderful as advertised. What a community South Bend is, and the University of Notre Dame is. But yeah, certainly you feel you're kind of torn, between being a dad, buying a house, finding a school, setting a roster, trying to still clean some things up at VCU. I'm an employee still at VCU, so trying to
Sure.
clean that up. So there's still a lot of things that have to be cleaned up, but we're working through it.
Well, yeah, you talked the other day about you get that phone call with a South Bend area code, and what kind of thoughts start kind of going through your head, I guess, when you're sitting there, and then all of a sudden there's the phone and it's a call from Notre Dame.
You just try to reflect on, really the reasons why you would want to explore this opportunity, why you'd want to leave VCU, why you'd want to take on the challenge of Notre Dame. And then you're trying to, make sure that the person on the other line of the call understands why that's important to you as well.
Right.
Like I said, I had gotten a text message the night before about the possibility of speaking. And then when Jody reached out, and that conversation was as comfortable as could be. She did such a wonderful job of making me feel comfortable and really keeping things um, at a level where it was really about the person, which made me understand very quickly that they were looking, that everything about Notre Dame is about fit and finding the right person, coach, educator. And so that made me feel much more comfortable from the start. They did a great job in that process. But like I said, when that phone rang, you take a deep breath before you say hello.
Well, and it was obvious listening to you at your press conference the other day, just how much Notre Dame means to you. You talked about growing up in Western Pennsylvania and watching Ron Paulus run around and all that stuff, and then lo and behold, there's Ron Paulus at the press conference, and Marcus Freeman too. You're a head coach, obviously, but is it kind of a little surreal when to have those kind of moments like that right out of the gate?
Well, yeah, and you talk about sticking your foot in your mouth right out of the gate, with Ron Paulus. But I do remember him, and he was such a great player from the state of Pennsylvania, and remember him going to Notre Dame, and that was to have him there was, and he's awesome. He came up and high fived me right away, so he was awesome. But then for Coach Freeman to be there really that really meant something to me. I know how busy he is. I know how much demand he is. And it's unbelievable. After he said congratulations to me, the first thing he said is, "Where's your family? How can I meet them?" And I thought that was just says a lot about who he is. And of course, he has a big family himself, and so just said a lot about him. And he made himself so available to us, and told me anything that I'd want to talk about. And of course, who else's mind would you want to pick other than his? I mean, he has made what looks like recruiting easy over the last year, over the last several months. But certainly want to get in contact with him and use him as a resource. I know how busy they're going to be, but to have him there, to be able to shake his hand, and then have all the other coaches come up and say hello, you can really get the idea of it it is a family there, and that was one of
Yep.
the things that really made the decision much easier for me.
Absolutely. And you mentioned someone else in your press conference who had the connection here that you kind of leaned on a little bit through this process. Brian O'Connor, who was, of course, back in the Palmineri days when they went to the College World Series in '02. He was, the pitching coach here at Notre Dame. He's been at Virginia for, it's hard to believe it's been going on 20 years now at this point. But you've obviously gone head to head with Virginia. You've got to know Brian O'Connor out there, and it's also obvious that he's got a lot of love for this. I saw him out in Omaha this time around
Yeah.
and talked to him a little bit. Still got some love for Notre Dame. And what's maybe the most important thing that Brian O'Connor told you and imparted on you when you were talking with him about this?
Really, for me, it was, him reiterating how special of a place it was. That his family, that in many ways he still feels like at times it's home. Many of his lifelong friends are still in South Bend. And so how he let me know how wonderful the people were, how much my family would love it here. He let me know how special the place is. And then he just kind of felt like that I was a good fit for it. He just was pretty adamant to me that a lot of the things and values that I have and the things that I find important in the program would fit at Notre Dame. And he felt like that I should really, really consider it and felt like it would be a really good match for me, my family, and for the style of program I wanted to run. And so that meant a lot to me, to be quite honest with you. I mean, he's somebody whose program I've looked up to. I mean, he changed baseball in the state of Virginia, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
When UVA got here and the way that they went about things made the rest of us have to get better quick, to be quite honest with you, if we wanted to keep up, and not sure we still are. But I just really respect Coach O'Connor, the way he goes about things, the way he leads his teams, leads his staff. And so he gave me a lot of confidence in my conversation. I'm not going to, reveal everything we talked about, but he gave
sure.
me a lot of confidence in this being the right job for me. And then I got to be honest with you, Paul Maneri sent me a text message after the press conference that was really some beautiful words, and again reassured me how special the place is, and how important the job is, and how important the brand is, and how wonderful it is to represent the brand in the university. And that really meant a lot to me as well. So both those guys have really been on board. I don't know Paul nearly as well as I know Brian. We haven't crossed paths, but certainly Coach O'Connor and Paul Maneri set the benchmark pretty high here.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll find out as your time goes on what an asset Pulmonary can be. I'm sure just the fact that you've already got that text from him, I think, says a lot right there. And you talk about how Brian O'Connor kind of changed baseball in the state of Virginia, and between your playing days at George Mason and then obviously coaching there and coaching at Virginia Commonwealth, you've been in that area for a long time. You've played a lot of those ACCs, including Virginia. You've won some of those head-to-heads, with Virginia and some of these other ACC schools. Does the familiarity that you have does it help you now as you make this step into the ACC?
I don't know if anything will ever get you comfortable and ready to play that type of schedule. It's very daunting when you look at it. And as I was looking at the 23 schedule and you see those 10 weekends lined up, you're thinking, oh boy, what did I get myself into?
Got to look different. Yeah.
That's right. But certainly, being in the Virginia, North Carolina, the Mid-Atlantic region, you do run into, whether it's UVA, Chapel Hill, Duke, NC State, you run into them recruiting, Virginia Tech, and you also run into them on your schedule. And that had always been a goal of mine at VCU, was to schedule those types of teams in our midweeks, in our non-conference, to put our team in a position to one, have an NCAA schedule, but also you knew that you were probably, if you're going to make the NCAA, one of those teams were going to host you probably.
Yeah.
And so to be in those venues, to be in front of those crowds was always important to me. And so I do feel like I understand the league. I do understand the coaches and have relationships with many of them. So I do feel like I am prepared from that standpoint. But, like I said, when you look at that schedule and think about 30 games against that type of competition, it can be daunting at times. And so we'll really have to break this down to, the old cliche, one game at a time, one pitch
Yeah.
at a time. But if I get my head looking beyond anything in this league, we're going to you can get your butt kicked quick.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, you've got a few months, several months before those first games actually come around. But yeah, I guess you kind of had you're a good opening weekend this past weekend. It sounds like, just in terms of, you talked about reaching out to players and stuff like that. You kind of had your first win without ever having to step on the field. Jack Findlay has decided to, pull his name out of the transfer portal and stay here at Notre Dame. So I guess, some thoughts on that, and maybe, whatever you can, reveal about maybe what you and Jack talked about after you got to talk to him for the first time.
And really, Jack was always very committed to Notre Dame. He was. This was where he wanted to be. He understands how special of a place the University of Notre Dame is. He understands how how important that degree is, the education is, and how life-changing it can be. And he was very happy. Loves his teammates. Loves what we still have left to do in the program. Just wanted to know who the head coach was going to be. He just wanted to know what the next steps of the program was going to be, and how that was going to impact his development. And so it was really just getting on the phone with him and his family, and reiterating a lot of our core values that were important to us, not only from a team standpoint, excuse me, but from a pitching development standpoint. And my background is in pitching, so I felt very comfortable having those conversations. And we laid out for him really our step-by-step process that we go through when it comes to how we want to develop pitchers and how we want to use that to help us win games and win championships. And his family was great about it. They were great about it. I think it was just the unknown. And like I said, he never wavered, and his teammates never wavered from wanting him to get back here as quickly as possible. It was very obvious to me what an important piece he is, not only on the field, but in the locker room and
Sure.
and around the university. And so it was great. Like I said, I was looking for a house. I was looking for a house when he called me. I was going through a house. I ran outside, took the call. He called me, and I said, "Well, now I'm buying this house," and I bought that house.
It's my lucky house. Can't move out of that one.
Told my wife, "Well, we're done. Wrap it up, because this is good luck here." So he's awesome family, awesome young man. Obviously, going to be a huge piece to what we're doing moving forward, and I'm excited to work with him.
Well, whether it's him or there are other guys in the portal, obviously, too, and you're talking to all these guys as much as you can, but you're a new head coach and you're essentially thrust into this situation now. How challenging, can it be when you don't have a previous relationship with these guys, and you're quite, it's almost like speed dating. It seems like it's like, you sit down and say, you give them your sales pitch. Here's what I'm all about. How challenging is that?
It's extremely challenging. Probably been the most difficult part right now, because you can't give as much time as you'd like to every person. And to be honest with you, I'm still probably not fully through the list, maybe fully through the list on text messaging and different things like that. But, we do have some guys, like I said, guys who have entered the portal more so because of the draft, more so because of the draft and the help they're planning on signing. But you also have the 23s and the 24s who you can't contact. They have to contact you and try to locate where they are. But as far as a message goes, you just have to reiterate that the reasons, the major reasons why they chose the University of Notre Dame, the experience, the education, the life-changing degree, and championship style baseball has not changed.
Right.
That piece has not changed. And I'm not here to change that. I am here to be a resource for them. I'm here to be an asset to them. And then you just got to be yourself. Be yourself on the phone and let them know that you genuinely care about them. And I'm smart enough to understand the job that the previous staff did, and that they were planning on being here for a long time. And so the recruits, the players, the development that they had that they were doing, is really good. And so those players on the other line of that phone are really good. And so there's no reason for me to come in here and be like, oh, we're going to reevaluate everything and make sure everything is, that you're a player that's good enough. I'm pretty trusting, and enough from national rankings, and you can do enough research to know that these guys are the type of men and players that we want at Notre Dame. And so, really for me, it's just continue to plug through this call list and continue to let guys know I'm here for them. Call me anytime. You have my number. But it's hard to keep up when you get these area codes and numbers coming up and you don't know who they are. And
Sure.
you just drive into the grocery store the other day. You stop and there's 25 texts in the 5-minute drive, and you're trying to get back to them. But that's part of the job, and building those relationships is my favorite part of the job. So, really that piece just comes with the scenario right now.
Yeah, such a big part of it, obviously. You were able to add some more arms out of the transfer portal as well. I don't know if things T's are crossed and I's are dotted. If what you're allowed to say, can you talk about those guys at all?
Well, a couple of them were here already were recruited by the former staff and got it in the master's program prior to me getting the job. So it was more about me just again getting Healy and Bosch and those guys were more about me getting in contact with them and just being like, hey, let's go. We're ready to go, man. Reaffirming everything. We are continuously working in that transfer portal and from the grad standpoint would like to add another piece or two. Because again, I think the draft is going to hit us, it hit us last night in a first rounder in Owen Murphy, and so I think the draft is going to impact us more and Notre Dame has been an older team for the last 2 years with a decent amount of grad transfers, so everyone we lose is playing a big part right now. And so we just want to make sure that those guys understand that we are got to still keep recruiting and we got to keep, it's not an easy place to find transfers that fit, but there are still some good ones out there and some options. And we're working on that right now.
Healy from David, both of them right-handers, Healy from Davidson and Bosch from Georgetown. But Healy, obviously, you saw in the conference out there in the A10. So it looks like he looks like a pretty good one to be coming in here for you.
Both him and Bosch are both really good ones, and Healy, of course, I'm tired of him beating up on us, but no, he is a low to mid 90s fastball guy with a ton of run and as good of a slider as there probably is in the country, and so he'll have an impact right away on what we're trying to do. So excited about all those guys. Excited about we have a good set of grad guys returning. It was very obvious to me from the returning players they didn't feel like they were done, that they were ready to continue to keep this thing moving forward, continue to push it, and so excited to get the opportunity to work with them.
Well, you were talking about the portal, and between that and the extra year of COVID eligibility, these things that just the way things have changed in the last few years, how much has that really kind of changed your job the last couple of years, the way you have to do things?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly has, and I think that's relative to where you are. And Notre Dame is unique to that. And I think one of the things that will always help Notre Dame is just the experience that the student athlete is going to get. Everyone who's at Notre Dame understands it's more than just the baseball side of it. There, obviously that's a big piece, but the education piece, the experience piece, what it means to have that degree as you move throughout your work life and move into employment. I just think that a lot of those kids understand that this is where they need to be, that this is the best opportunity for them. And then on the flip side, it's not going to be as easy for us to access portal guys and transfer guys as maybe a lot of other schools. So it will not be the most critical part of our recruiting. We will still recruit high school players, the best in the country, the best student athletes in the country, and that will be the backbone of the program moving forward.
You were talking, pitching obviously is such a big part of your background. You were a pitcher in college and a pitching coach before you became a head coach. Is there, like when you look at pitchers specifically, certain characteristics maybe you're looking for when you're going out looking for a guy?
Well, number one is athleticism. We like to recruit athletes for certain, especially on the mound as well. Looking for athletic guys. Athletic guys can repeat their delivery. Guys who can repeat their delivery, throw more strikes. And I said in the press conference, I'm a big believer in strikes. I understand the analytics. I like to think I'm up to speed enough on the analytics that I can talk about it. But at the same time, I still believe in strikes, especially at the amateur level. I think you have to be able to command the zone and force the other team to do something to beat you. So athleticism, looking for strikes, and then the last piece, the two last pieces, competitiveness, which is the hardest thing to figure out today because
Right.
you just don't get the opportunity to see the guys in those settings as much as you used to be able to, and competitiveness, but I also believe that if you've done the things academically and have taken on the rigors it takes to go to a place like Notre Dame, you're pretty competitive. Like you're pretty focused. You're a pretty
Right.
competitive person. And then the last piece for me is the breaking ball. We're going to look for guys that certainly are going to be able to match what they can do with their fastball command with that breaking ball as well. I think that's a separator, at this level.
You were talking the other day about when it comes to your lineup, you don't want people to know the difference between the top and bottom of your lineup, and I guess I've never really heard it maybe expressed that way, but it makes sense. Obviously, how would you maybe kind of describe your overall offensive approach that you guys that you've traditionally had?
Yeah, I think it starts with like I said a little bit. You got to get to second base somehow. All right, you have to be able. You either have to slug your way to second base, or you have to be able to run your way to second base.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to get to second base, and so that's the first thing I think in the recruiting process is how does this guy get to second base? Okay, and from there you're looking for athletes that can do multiple things. I don't ever want to lose a game because we only had 7 hits or we only had 5 hits. On the days we're not hitting, we still need to be able to produce offense. And I think offense and hitting are two different things. The ability to take extra bases, the ability to take the free base when it's given to you, whether it's through a walk, an error, a hit by pitch, your ability to pressure the other team. I call it lengthening and shortening the field. We want guys who can force the infield to play deep, and when they do, we're going to bunt on them. And we want to be able to have enough guys in our lineup who can run that the pitcher's worried about doing multiple things on the mound as opposed to just getting a guy out. And when the pitcher makes those mistakes, we want guys in the lineup who can hit them in the gap. And so we're really looking for that versatile guy. But it does start with them being able to understand and having the baseball IQ to control their at bats, know what they're looking for, get good pitches, control the zone. And really be able to create offense on days when we're not just hitting. I think it's unrealistic in the ACC to think you're just going to hit your way to first place.
Right.
I don't think you can do that. You have to be able to score against these arms in a variety of different ways, and that's what, to be honest with you, Notre Dame has done the last couple years, and is a style that I've always enjoyed as well. So. And we played a very big ballpark here when I was at VCU. So we had to be creative. We had to do those things. Now, again, I like home runs and I like doubles, so we're not going away from that. But just that versatility. Like I said, I want to have the type of athletes that when you come to the ballpark, that the bottom of the lineup doesn't have a distinction and the middle doesn't have a distinction. I want to be able to create something every inning if we can.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see it soon enough, depending on which direction the wind's blowing there at X Stadium. That your offense keeps you consistent. That's
That's
it.
right.
That's for sure. That's for sure. You touched on your staff off the top, and I got just a couple more questions here, and I'll let you get going. But do you feel like breaking any news, or are you close to are you close to being able to announce? I know Rich Witten from your staff there at VCU, got a head coaching job, so I'm sure that kind of maybe changes things a little bit for you in terms of who you
Sure.
might have had.
Sure, and Rich probably would have been maybe the leading candidate at VCU had I left as well.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense. Yeah.
he'd have been tough, but he would have been outstanding. I would have loved to have gotten an opportunity to work with him again, and he's gonna do great things at FIU. I'm close. I'm working through it, and you have background checks, you have things. These guys are at other schools. They have recruits. You want to do it. You want to do it right. You want people to be able to. In the world of social media, sometimes these things break, and I'm an example of that. Before you're able to tell people the way you want to be able to tell them, and so we're working through it, and the jobs are being posted as we speak, and so hopefully, I'm hoping by the end of this week to have two guys that we can call our assistant coaches, and then start adding that support staff as well.
All right. Sounds good. Final thing for you. I want to go back to 1999 real quick.
Which
You're in
is,
college at
oh
George
no.
Mason. The movie American Pie is released. Has your life been forever changed since American Pie came
Well,
out?
Shawn, we're getting to the point now where the current student athlete has no idea about those movies. That's how old that's
That's
how
true.
old I'm getting. Is
That's
that,
true.
but for the first couple years, you would make a call to a recruit, and they would be like, "What, Stiffler?" That's all, And so it was, showing my ID at the airport, showing my ID was
Uh-huh.
always you would get the second look, but no, and obviously that came back out when I was introduced. I saw all the "it's Stiffler time" memes and things like that. So, I remember seeing that movie for the first time, knew nothing about it, and saw it with some friends. And, for one of the first lines is "party at Stifler's house tonight."
That's
And
right.
I'm just like, what? Um, but yeah, no, it's an, infamous, I guess would be the right word, right? So
That's right. The amount of Stifler references we've had just talking about you, over the last couple of weeks. It's
it's
there've been a
it's my
few. There've
it's
been a few. That's
yeah,
right.
it's my generation's Animal House.
There you go. That's right. Shawn Stiffler, the brand new head coach at the University of Notre Dame. Hey, congratulations again on this position, and I know everyone's excited to see your guys in action once the season gets started out there. So good luck to you and your family, and we'll see you out there soon.
Thanks, Shawn. Go Irish.